I always think that when nature and science works together, we are literally talking about complete completing ourselves. I feel like you transform yourself when people see you. And so when people see you, it's because you're doing something that changes and enhances um, how you feel sometimes on the outside, and it goes back on the inside.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top medical practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Suzanne Gunn, the founder and clinical director of Aura Med Spa and Wellness, a trauma-informed med spa that blends evidence-based medicine with plant-forward skincare to deliver inclusive, results-driven care. Growing up in a family deeply rooted in herbal medicine and holistic healing traditions, Suzanne developed an early appreciation for the body's natural ability to restore balance. Her professional journey spans oncology and community health, and this experience shaped her approach to med spa services, emphasizing safety, individualized care, and the integration of wellness and aesthetics. With over a decade of experience in regenerative aesthetics and functional wellness, Suzanne has built a practice that prioritizes sensitive, autoimmune, post-cancer, and melanated skin. She also developed the AuraMed Botanical Skincare Collection, a clean, plant-based line designed for both professional and at-home use, ensuring consistency, integrity, and effective results for all skin types. So, Suzanne, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, David. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's dive into this. In your introduction, you talked a little bit about kind of your how you get started in medicine, but I want to learn a little bit more about how did you really get interested in the medical field?
Um, uh, you know, Everybody has a story how they, started. I actually used to hate the sight of blood, even, you
Mm.
know.
Hmm.
Um, but my mother got sick and she had cancer, and anybody
Mm.
that's had that type of chronicity of illness, they know that it's almost a 24-hour care sometimes, depending, of course, on the type of cancer that they have.
Mm.
And so for me, just being around that, taking her in and out of hospitals, kind of seeing care being delivered, I think for me, I felt like that was something I could do it well, and also go above and beyond. And so that literally got me from a completely different career that I was in and into school.
Okay. And then now I know kind of with your background, there's the regenerative side, there's the functional medicine side, there's the wellness side, there's also the aesthetic side of it. Did you already start within that field, or was it a transition kind of going from one and then transferring into that field?
It was more of a transfer. As far as the wellness part is, I'm originally from Africa. And back when I grew up, we did not have quite the access of healthcare clinics, hospitals, as you would imagine on a, regular basis. And so I grew up in a family that we were big on herbal medicine as well as traditional healing practices that we practiced. And I saw them work, of course. And so that was always a part of me growing up. But then once I, went into nursing school and also went ahead and became a nurse practitioner. I actually started out in oncology and bone marrow transplant as well. And that I was there for quite a while. A lot of what I saw during that time was just the different ways that, especially for cancer patients, have a problem finding the right type of skincare because a lot of times some of the chemotaxic medicines are ruining their skincare, maybe routine. You find that a product they were using in the past is not a product that works anymore, or it's a product that's contraindicated to what they could use now because maybe of what is in it. And so a lot of that started with me making some of some of my friends, products. I would make it for them. I'd have clients that would say, I just want something natural, something that doesn't have any perfume, something that doesn't have any chemicals in it that would cause me to have a reaction. And so I would make some of these homemade things for them from the background of how I knew that we did it growing up. And so this became a part of my passion to where, one becomes two and three and four. And before you know it, I had this product that, was actually a viable product that could be used. And the story just goes on like that to the point where after I was in college for a while, went to community where I encountered now more of the underserved type of problems, where there's not a whole lot of good care on some of the prevalent things that may come up like eczema. We're talking about psoriasis. We're talking about rosacea, things like that, where they don't have the access to better care for it or to have the knowledge on how to care for that type of skin. And so just the combination of those two, and also being a very, very somebody that suffered so bad from acne and acne scarring, I just couldn't find the right things, the right steps of how to take care of my skin. The combination of all that kind of gives me the expertise over the years to kind of know this is how to approach it, but we also approach it functionally, meaning that we also look at the medication part of it if we need to include that in the wholesomeness of the actual natural ingredient that we use on your skin.
Okay. And why start your own practice? I mean, why not just work for somewhere else, or just why start your own?
I did work for someone else.
Mhm.
The reason I did that was because when you're going from a field where you're probably bedside or clinic, a lot of times I'm a believer that you want to be in a space where this is something that's happening every day because I believe it's the best way to learn. I was able to learn working from somebody else that had a much bigger med spa, of course. And I was able to learn laser techniques, injection techniques, techniques that are needed to have a good practice in a med spa. Now, what made me start my own is because I felt like I could deliver the care better. I could also meet a diverse black and brown skincare that was usually I observe over time was underserved just because sometimes you will find that your traditional med spa sometimes is afraid to approach that type of skin because they're afraid of what maybe they could do to that type of skin. And I knew I could do it because I've experienced it and I know what it looks like. And so that became a space for me where I could truly integrate natural ingredients, natural skincare in the practices that we do every day. For example, we may use for inflammation a wonderful organic arnica oil that is infuses really well to the skin. Our facials are actual and natural plant ingredients that we use, and the clients loved it. They really, really love it. And so I kind of wanted to carve out that space for myself where I truly knew what was going into a client's skin and also how they perceived, because there's a growing number of people that are really wanting to understand what is in the product they use.
Okay. And I know that for what you largely treat is going to be in the skincare arena. So how would you treat someone that has sensitive skin? Like what are some of like the top things that you would look at or that even individuals could look at when they have sensitive skin?
One of the first things we do is a very comprehensive consultation that we do because what I'm looking at a consultation is what are they currently using? That's number one. Because one of the things I found is whatever they're currently using at home more than likely has abrasive things in it. Some are not even aware that it may have some type of, pills that they're not even aware of that are maybe abrasive and causing the sensitivity to worsen. The other thing we're looking at it from a medical perspective. Is this a situation where maybe the sensitivity is caused because of flare-ups from like eczema on the face? Are we talking about rosacea that is maybe not treated properly? Are they not using the right kind of product, like a moisturizer that doesn't have any parabens and sulfates and things that could be causing the irritants on the skin for the person? So we want to eliminate that first and foremost when we do the consultation, because it's part of them understanding their skin and what makes their skin react. We want to remove those out of the way if there's anything that's causing that. And our approach at the clinic is, if they're coming in, for example, for a facial, which is, most popular for like a sensitive skin person, they're afraid of what's going to be used. We go over the products we're going to use on them. On the most that we use are going to be your gentle cleansers, your gentle moisturizers. We're going to teach them how to apply it. What type of tool are they using? Their facial brush. I've found too many that are very, very aggressive, that's causing extreme tears on the skin instead of just a mild, gentle wash. And so things like that are things we look at. I found so many people that will wash their face with cold and hot water. Worst thing you can do for that kind of sensitive skin. So making education a priority for sensitive skin, it really does evolve their skin to just so much manageable condition when it's winter or things like that, where it could cause a little bit more stress on their skin. This helps them prepare all year round and have a routine as well.
Okay. And within that skincare arena, I want to talk about melanated skin. What is melanated skin? I've heard of melanin, but I've never heard of melanated skin. So could you clarify what is melanated skin?
So we measure skin color based on Fitzpatrick. So we're talking about a Fitzpatrick run clear all the way down to like a 5 or 6. When we talk about melanated, the reason we're darker is because we have more melanin in comparison to maybe a Caucasian that may not have a lot of melanin. The
Mm.
more melanated you are, the more darker you are. And
Okay.
so that's what we regard as melanated skin. That's the kind of skin care sometimes that gets underrepresented quite a bit.
Okay. And when it comes to the treatment specifically for darker skin versus lighter skin, what I guess is part of the nuances that go into that? Because I think some people may think, oh, skin is just skin. Like whether it's darker or lighter, it should be the same thing. But when it comes to the treatment side, like what do you have to keep in mind for treatments on different colored skin?
You have to understand the treatment that you're administering, first of all. For example, we will have different frequency in an IPL, that's intense pulse laser. You will see that you cannot just use the same frequencies as you use on more lighter skin versus a darker skin. They're different. You will find some spas that may not particularly have a hair removal laser that is targeted towards darker skin versus one that's targeted towards lighter skin. And so what happens in a situation like that, it causes the opposite problem, or it causes burns. And there's a burns that can be up to a third-degree burn, or it'll cause what we call hypopigmentation. In other words, you're going to find your patch of darker skin, and here is a lighter skin that got affected because of using either the wrong laser or the wrong modality. So sometimes you have to buy specific things that will target like a melanated skin. Like if you're using a laser, you want to use a laser that has Nd:YAG. An Nd:YAG laser is much safer for much, much, much darker skin in comparison. There's a lot of out there in the markets that may not accommodate both. A lot of the new ones are trying to be more inclusive, but also I think a lot of them are produced based on the demographic of people that they're treating as well.
Okay. And then for people that have, let's say, reactive skin, constantly reactive skin, what are some tips you would give to someone who's suffering from that?
Reactive skin, I think it would be great to know the causation of it. But I will tell you in my experience, I've had a few where there was no causation. And so normally they would just give it an umbrella over a name, like if it's a hyperpigmentation and it could be immune related. A lot of times this is the important part where we have great partnerships with our other medical people that are also treating skin, your dermatologists. So there's so many times in my experience where we've had to work together. If they're treating them with a form of medication, a form of topical cream, we're on the other side treating with the actual implementation of the treatment, like a microneedling, where we're supporting what the dermatologist is doing in terms of their treatment. And so in causations like that, I always ask for medical records because you want to know, have they actually been? And I've also gone ahead and send them to dermatologists or the specialist that I think would be appropriate to be able to treat them in that situation. Because you always want to make sure that you're doing the right thing for the client. You're not treating before you understand what is causing that reactive skin.
Mm.
Because it helps guide you in a treatment package where if they need a chemical pill, what kind of chemical pill are you administering? If they need a topical medication that is a prescription strength, what strength are you using for that client? And so understanding those things will also call for more of a collaborative approach with maybe even who they're already working with, if it's a dermatologist.
Okay. And when it comes to skincare, I'm sure that there's a lot of misconceptions and myths out there when it comes to skin and skincare. What would you say are some of the most common misconceptions or myths that you've heard from your clients about skincare?
They think they have sensitive skin. I think that's number one.
Mm,
I can't tell you how many times somebody walk into the door and say, "Can I use that or this or that?" I have sensitive skin.
mm,
I think it's more a matter of identifying, doing a proper consultation to identify exactly why they think it's sensitive skin. And then secondly, what uh, gave them the perception of, that their skin may be a certain way. In other words, I'm talking about people that suffer from acne, for example. They may say, I have tried 5,000 different products. And then sometimes you realize they were trying it for a week or two and moving on.
mm.
And so you're going into almost like an investigation mode to try to find out, where are we? We take the time to actually learn what the client is doing and also advise the client on how they can better make changes or whatever it is that they're doing, maybe transform it to be better.
Okay. And you bring up a good point as far as people only try it for a week or two and then they give up on it. When it kind of, and I know this is probably going to be different for every single person, but what is the estimated time frame people should expect if they have some type of skin issue and they're trying to get resolved? How long should they expect that to be? Is it reasonable that you're going to see results within a week or two, or is it more like a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? Like what's that typical time frame they should just have that expectation in their mind?
I will tell you product base. For example, I go get a product and I'm trying a new product on my face. I tell people you need to give that at least 6 to 8 weeks. First of all, your skin takes about 28 days to regenerate. We're talking about turning over. So if I'm using a new ingredient, it has to absorb, it has to go do what it's supposed to do, whether it's boosting of collagen, whether it's changing the cell morphology. So we're working maybe on skin, on the color if it's off. So if you can, and I'm talking about a product where it's not causing an extreme reaction. I don't want them using it that long. I'm talking about a product where we want to see if this product is actually helping your dry skin. Is it hydrating? Are we working on the acne to where you have less breakouts? So you have to do it about 6 to 8 weeks before you decide that you want to give up on the product. And I will tell you in some instances, it may be longer. If we're using, for example, like a hydroquinone for skin that has some kind of pigmentation concerns, you're probably required to use that 4 to 6 months before deciding that this is not working or this is working. Because we know that everybody's rate of skin turning over is not always the same. And
Mm,
so we have to continue looking and observing and making the decision that this is working or not working just based on the time that the product could recommend. So it's really based on the product. But as far as just regular skincare, I would say give it at least 6 to 8 weeks before
Okay.
giving up on it.
Okay. Good to know. Now,
Mm.
Suzanne, I want to shift tracks a little bit over into your practice specifically, and really the team that you've built. Um, how would you say that the team has really contributed to the success of the practice and just the strength of the team overall, and how you're able to deliver that care to your clients?
Um, when I was hiring, I was very specific because the interesting part, David, is that when I hired, I was a solo practitioner for a long time. For I say a long time, I'm saying 2 years. And it was at the time when I was ready to go into a different space that I actually had estheticians contact me. And actually, both of them that contacted me were contacting me because they have seen my website or they've seen my work out there with natural plant-based products. And so when they both wrote to me, they were like, I'm big on believing in natural products. I'm big in believing in that type of treatment works. And so that was even how we got through the first interview, just being able to sit down and having them understand there's that passion behind what we do. We're not just your regular space where you walk in and you're just performing a treatment. We're doing a little bit more learning on how the specific plant-based treatment work on different kinds of skin. And so once they come in, we take time with our training. I train them. I We don't rush through it. We make sure they understand the product, they understand the types of skin. Even though they're licensed esthetician, they're also understanding what medical combination treatments look like.
Mm,
If we're treating microneedling, they may be doing the facial or chemical peel, and we may be doing the microneedling, which works together. So it's understanding how do they work together.
I see. And if someone is, let's say, somebody's looking for a practice that can help them with their skincare, but they don't know who to go to, what piece of advice would you give to that person on when they're doing that search? What should they look for when they're trying to find a provider like you and your team that can help them with their skincare, give them the right advice, and just point them in the right direction?
The first thing is we have amazingly Google, ChatGPT now, all kinds of AI searches.
Mhm.
Be specific in the kind of communication that you put in there. Like if you were to type in natural treatments in a spa, if you were to type in plant-based spas, if you're looking through spas and you're looking, let's say, a facial and you want a facial. Now that may call for a little bit more homework. By that I mean you may need to call the place and find out do they do consultations, because I can tell you, people that have problematic skin, they've more than likely gone and seen several people, several practitioners, or things like that. Ask for a consultation. I can assure you, most places do free consultations anyway. They will sit down with you, help explain to you. They'll probably do a face analysis and give you a better idea of what you should be doing and what you should be, how you should be treating your skin. Any client that I see always gets a great summary from me. I usually have recommendations in the summary because I want them to do better. Whether or not it's a one-time treatment or a multiple treatment, they know from the beginning this is the package that I have. For example, I had a client who moved recently to, I believe, Colorado, and she wanted to find a practitioner there that was going to continue and help her with the skincare. I She already knew what to do because she had a summary of what we were doing, what
Mm,
we've done, and what we're looking at the next 2 months. Because we provide you a package when you walk in. We're not promising instant results. We're not telling you, oh, we can make you look great in this one treatment. A lot of it is a matter of helping you understand what the problem is, how we're going to go about fixing the problem. And it's more than likely going to require a few months of that, or a few weeks of that, or a few different kinds of treatments to get to where you're going. Especially if you're trying to achieve that particular result, it's not going to come about just from doing one particular thing.
okay. And how important is creativity in what you do and how you approach your patient care?
Oh, I think it's so important. I have another life and I do something else. And
Mhm.
I can tell you it helps me, especially when it comes to like, for example, when you're injecting lips or you're, doing something to the face where it calls for fillers, volume loss and things
Mhm.
like that. How you sculpt that lip, it calls for you to be creative because it's not just something you learn overnight. And
Mhm.
so your creativity also comes in place with your time management. If you are not creative in how you manage your time, where maybe one client is late, the other client is already there. You got to be creative how you juggle the two. You could have one numbing
Mhm.
and have them, maybe your esthetician start on something. So it calls almost also for a multitasking and you to be creative with your time as well and your treatments. And also sometimes you may have a client that you're used to using a certain type of maybe alcohol-based not cleanser, but like when you're sterilizing surfaces. And she's like, I'm allergic to it, you know. So you can't just stop and cancel the service unless you don't have any. So you have to be creative on the things that your supplies as well, your
Mhm.
supplies and treatments, really.
Okay. And Suzanne, throughout your career, I'm sure you've had some challenging cases or memorable cases. Is there maybe one that comes to mind that you can share of just memorable case, tough case of somebody coming in and how you were able to get them a great result in the end?
Um, I always mention this case because it truly was one of my most challenging. I had a lady that came in and she had it's called lichen planus. Lichen planus can pretty much go to any part of your body, most part. It's a skin condition. And I remember she had come to me after 2 years of going to a dermatologist. And the dermatologist was very thorough and great. And I remember thinking that that is one of the worst cases I've ever seen because that's when you see a case like that, you obviously want to know that they went to a dermatologist.
Mhm.
And so once we had established the dermatology, gotten records, I mean, she has gone as far as even taking methotrexate, which would be way up there in terms of the type of medicine that you're taking. And what she wanted to do was that she wanted to see, was there any possibility that her skin would ever be clear? It was complete dark.
Mhm.
That's what that had caused. And I remember, because depending on what dermatology office you go, most of them don't have a med spa aspect to it. They're just strictly a clinic for dermatology. So I was happy and satisfied that she's already seeing dermatology, getting blood work done. And so that helped me out in the sense that I knew I could proceed on the other side of lightening that pigmentation. And I had to be extremely careful with that because this is not the usual throw a chemical pill here or, the usual things that we do. I knew that I wanted to do things that were not going to exacerbate worsen that color darkness, as well as, her skin was already sensitive from the different treatment modalities that she was using, like the creams were also causing extreme more sensitivity for her. So we started more with the gentler processes and build our way up to like microneedling, doing some intense spotlighting. And I remember thinking, the amount of time it took to even get her to the clear phase, it was a year. And so bringing a client to understand that this could change, it could get better. And then you have to walk with them, hold their hand to say, yes, you may need to see me every 4 weeks. And don't forget there's the expense part of it too. You have to help them realize what are the things that I'm going to do to get me from A to that place. And we did get her there. And I would say to date, which is a few years later, she was the most extreme challenge that I ever had. And I was just so proud to see how far she had come. And even the dermatologist wrote me a note and thought, oh, wow. So,
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
Okay. Now, Suzanne, for your practice, Med Spa, what's your vision for your practice?
My vision is I want more people to be plant-based. I want more spas to be plant-based. I want to teach estheticians, other nurse practitioners, other providers how we manage to make it work with plant-based products. In other words, I can envision us growing with the number of people. Because if you look at uh, the industry right now, it is growing in terms of clean beauty.
Mhm.
Clean beauty meaning people now truly do care about what is in their product. And they're also going further now in caring about what's used on their skin when
Mhm.
they go to get the services. And so for me, is I would hope that we would expand on that because if I think about just my local area, it's only about 10% or less than 10% that actually are doing what I do.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it's a great vision. Hopefully, more and more people pick up on that part.
I hope so too.
Okay. Well, Suzanne, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at auramedspaandwellness.com. Now,
Thank you.
last question is, what does beauty mean to you?
Oh, that is a big question. I mean, I know the obvious answer that most people say is that beauty uh, comes from the within, right? I always think that when nature and science works together, we are literally talking about complete completing ourselves. I feel like you transform yourself when people see you. And so when people see you, it's because you're doing something that changes and enhances um, how you feel sometimes on the outside, and it goes back on the inside. Um, the aura that you walk around when you feel like you have clearer skin, it makes a huge difference in how you hold your conversations, the people you meet, the people you smile at. I'm a good example of that. When I had terrible acne, I remember not wanting to do much or go
Mhm.
anywhere
Mhm.
because I felt like everybody's just looking at me and seeing my acne.
Mhm.
Same with the people that I help every day. I hear that a lot. I just want to be seen. And I think being seen is transformational. Truly, that's what I think beauty is. Being seen is transformational.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Suzanne sharing her expertise. So, Suzanne, where can people contact you in your practice?
They can reach me, of course, in our website, which is auramedspaandwellness.com, as well as reach us at our email, which is on our website, or at aurahealthandbeauty.com, where you can also find our products. And catch us on Instagram. Follow us on Auramed Health and Beauty. I offer a lot of good insights on how people can improve their daily skin.
Awesome. Well, Suzanne, it was a pleasure having you on, pleasure having you share, and thank you for sharing your expertise and knowledge.
And thank you for inviting me to your product, to your podcast. I had an amazing time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.